Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Jay from E2 Language. I've got an interesting story to tell you. Well, I'll tell you it in a second, actually. What we're going to do in this live class is look at IELTS Writing Task 2, but instead of writing a laborious essay, which you should do, by the way, and which you can do by looking at the other videos that we've produced, I'm going to give you some tips for scoring 8+. Okay? Let me tell you that little story. I'm going to admit this to you, and it's kind of difficult for me to admit this because I'm an English teacher and I'm a native English speaker and I'm very, very good at linguistics and writing and blah, 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 blah. I got stuck on 7.5 for writing 3 times in the IELTS. I've taken the IELTS 4 times now. I've gotten 9s on reading, listening, and speaking. No problem, right? Reading, listening, speaking, 9s. Cool. Cool bananas, easy peasy. Writing, however, holy moly, 3 times I got stuck on 7.5, right? But I can proudly tell you that in the last test I took, I got 8.5, which is good. It's not perfect, it's not 9. Maybe I'll send it back and see if they'll up it to 9. But there's a reason why I got stuck. And there's a reason why so many people get stuck on 6.5, 7.5, and they can't cross that 8 barrier. And I think I know the reason why. And I employed some different techniques in the final test that I took. I changed the way that I wrote my essays. And I believe that that increased my score. And there's good reason for that. So let's have a look at that in this class. So these ghastly looking things are what the examiners look at when they're marking your essay. There are 4 of them, right? Task achievement, coherence, cohesion, these are crazy words. Basically, these 4 things are as such. Task achievement means you answer the question. Coherence and cohesion means you structure your essay and your paragraphs while even within the paragraphs themselves. Lexical resource means vocabulary. There are tips and tricks for each of these, and the final one is grammatical range and accuracy. Not just accuracy, grammatical range and accuracy. We'll get to that one. What we're going to do in this live class is look at how to get a top score for task achievement, which is this criterion here. I'm going to show you how to boost it up to an 8+. But you'll have to wait for the other lessons, which will happen next week for coherence, cohesion, vocabulary, and grammar. But so tonight, just task achievement. Let me show you what you need to do to maximize your score on this one. So there are 4 things related to task achievement that you need to do to boost your score. First one, it sounds very simple, but in fact it's not. It is answer the question. You need to answer the question that they ask you. A lot of people don't. And there's a number of reasons why they don't. And I'm going to show you what happens and why they go off track. Task achievement's all about staying on track. Number 2, in your essay, you need to make your position or your opinion clear as mud. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that. Number 3, it's all about structures. You need to use the E2 language introduction, the E2 language paragraphs, which I'll show you as well, and the E2 conclusion structures. These are extremely important. The 4th thing is, of course, and this relates to task achievement, you need to write more than 250 words, and we'll have a quick look at that. But let's firstly look at how you should need to answer the question. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to read this question prompt, which you might get on test day. Ready? Imagine you're opening your test booklet, and this is what you see. All right, just before we continue, Masterpiece on YouTube Live says, Jay, if you got stuck on 7.5 3 times, then what hope do I have? I'm stuck at 7.5 twice already. 3rd time lucky, perhaps. It's not luck. It really isn't luck. There's a method. There are certain strategies you need to employ. So let's keep looking at this. Okay, so we just read this question prompt that said, considering that adults spend much of their lives at work, having job satisfaction is extremely important. What factors contribute to job satisfaction? How realistic is the expectation of job satisfaction for all employees? Okay, what I want you to do in a second when I get my slides right, okay, let's just do it. What I want you to do here, there's the question at the top, it's the same question. I want you to read this introduction. Okay, I want you to read, let me just show you where. I want you to read this. It's beautifully written. I want you to give it a score from 0 to 9 for task achievement. Is it a 4? Is it a 6? Is it an 8? Is it even a 9? Okay, read this and think about whether it answers the question, okay? I'll give you 30 seconds to read it, starting now. This particular introduction, and let's say this introduction was continued throughout the rest of the essay, would get no more than a 4 out of 9. It's right off topic. It's beautifully written, the grammar's perfect, the vocabulary is excellent, but it is off topic completely. Why? Well, let's take a look. The question said, what factors contribute to job satisfaction? And this said, this essay will discuss the advantages of having good job satisfaction. How realistic is the expectation of job satisfaction for all employees? This says, this essay will discuss the disadvantages of having it's not on topic, IELTS examiners, bang. If this were a video game, you've just died in the video game, right? That's not what you want to do. You want to make sure that you read that question prompt and you answer that question as perfectly, okay? Answer the question. I know that sounds crazy. Answer the question. What happens is you're preparing for your IELTS and you write an advantages, disadvantages essay the night before, right? And that's good because that's printed that in your brain. And then on test day, you get there and you open the booklet and it asks you something completely different and you're scared, you're nervous, and you think, oh, I'll just write what I wrote last night or what I saw on Jay's YouTube video. Jay's YouTube videos are damn good, but you've got to be so flexible on test day and just answer the question, okay? That's it. I won't drill it anymore. You get the point. I want you to read this introduction and give it a score from 0 to 9. This time we have a timer. What score would you give this? From 0 to 9, not for grammar, not for vocabulary, but for staying on track, for answering the question. Read it carefully. And the answer is, you probably guessed that this one was much more improved. This would get, this would get an 8 or a 9 for task achievement. Let's go back and see why. One of the questions said, or asked, what factors contribute to job satisfaction? Let's look at that third sentence of the introduction. This essay will discuss the 2 main contributors to an enjoyable job. Okay, that is directly going to answer that question there. Awesome. What about the second question? How realistic is the expectation of job satisfaction for all employees? Well, this essay will discuss blah, 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 blah. This essay will argue that few employees will truly have such factors in their working lives. So it's going to answer both questions. It's right on the money, okay? So again, you're going to get an 8.9, 8 or 9 rather, if you stay on track. Okay, we've just looked at task achievement and how to answer the question. Of course, it's complicated. It's more complicated than that. You have to stay on track throughout the entire essay, not just in your introduction, but in your paragraphs and in your conclusion. You have to answer the question all the way through. The problem is there are a number of different IELTS essay question types. In fact, I've seen 7 or 8 different types. I won't reel them off the top of my head, but in our YouTube videos up here, you can do them all, okay? So if you're curious, and I think you should practice them all, it's very important to practice them all. And if you want to get some feedback on your writing, go to e2language.com. The link will be in the description below. Sign up to one of our packages, get some feedback on your writing, written feedback, or take a one-on-one tutorial with one of our expert teachers. We can certainly help you out. Okay, so we've looked at how to answer the question. Let's look at the second key to task achievement, which is making your position or opinion clear throughout. So this is an example essay. Let's say it's an opinion essay, okay? Let's say it's asking whether you think smoking is a good idea or a bad idea, just to make it simple. And let's say you're going to argue that smoking is a bad idea, which is probably the easiest way to argue. So in your introduction, you're going to say that smoking's a bad idea. First paragraph, you're going to give a reason, an example why smoking's a bad idea. You're going to do the same, different reasons and examples in paragraph 2 and 3. And in the conclusion, you're going to say that smoking's a bad idea. What people do is they contradict themselves. They will start off and say smoking's a really bad idea, but then in paragraph 1 they'll say, yeah, sometimes smoking's actually pretty fun to do with your friends, and you know what? The evidence may not be there, but smoking's really bad, and there's contradictions throughout the essay. You need to be very mindful that when you choose a position, whether you're going to agree or disagree, for example, that you absolutely stick with it. Now, you've got what I did in my last essay, this is interesting because this is not usually what I'm like in life. In life, I like nuance and I like finding a sort of the pros and the cons and weighing up I sort of agree, but I sort of disagree. This is how I find my way through life, being centered, I hope. But when you're writing an IELTS essay, don't be centered. You've got to be, how can I say this? You've got to be ideological. You've got to choose a side and totally argue for that side and disregard all the other side of it, okay? Unless it asks you to discuss both views, of course. If it's asking you to discuss both views, that's a very different thing. But even if it asks you to discuss both views, there's still a position there where you're very clear on this view and you're very clear on this view, right? Maybe it will also ask you for your opinion, in which in the conclusion, you'll be very clear about which of those views that you agree with, okay? The idea here is that throughout your essay, you don't contradict yourself. Your paragraphs are very clear in their ideas, and the position is, well, clear as well, let's just say, okay? I want you to read this paragraph, think about how clear it is, whether it answers the questions, and give it a score from 0 to 9 for task achievement. Think about the clarity of the paragraph. The position, is the position clear? Sorry, I should kind of tricked you. This is relating to that first question about the factors that contribute to job satisfaction. Okay, so let's think about this. Sorry, we're answering this question here. Does this paragraph have a clear position here? Is it very clear? Have I written about the factors that contribute to job satisfaction? There are a plethora of elements that contribute to job satisfaction. Although it is very complicated to ascertain what these aspects are, it is clear that they exist. Consulting companies, for instance, can measure job satisfaction using various surveys. After all, it is one of the most important... Okay, that down. There's absolutely no clear position, or not necessarily an opinion, but I just have not answered that question again. I'm just right off track here. I've written it beautifully in terms of grammar and vocabulary, but I haven't answered the question again. Okay? Try this one. Again, I'm talking about this question here. Has this paragraph answered this question? I'll give you a minute to read it. I want you to score it from 0 to 9 for task achievement. Okay. What did you score this from 0 to 9? Well, let's read it. So, what factors contribute to job satisfaction? The most important aspect of job satisfaction is purpose. This relates to how much an employee feels that what they are doing is meaningful and has a positive impact on the world. For example, doctors have a great sense of purpose because they save the lives of their patients. Having a meaningful job is clearly the most important feature for overall enjoyment. Okay, interesting. What factors, the most important aspect? I think the IELTS examiners would give this a 6. Why? It's asking for factors, more than one, not one, plural. And in my paragraph, how many have I talked about? I've talked about one, purpose. So I'm going to achieve a 6 probably for this. It's not too bad, but it's, again, the position's not clear. I haven't answered the question. It's a little bit off topic. Try this one on for size. Rate this from 0 to 9. Just forget that second question, by the way. Okay, so what factors, more than one, contribute to job satisfaction? Well, my paragraph says there are 2 main contributors to having a satisfying job, namely having a sense of purpose and autonomy. Having a purpose means that you are doing something that you feel and believe has meaning. For example, many teachers derive enjoyment from their jobs because they are educating students. The other main factor is autonomy. People like to be in control of their jobs and to not be bossed around. It is quite clear that being a manager rather than a subordinate leads to more enjoyment. these two factors are the most important. This, my friends, is very clear. The position's clear. It's answered the question. This would push you up from that dreaded 6 or 7 up to the 8, or I don't know if 9 exists, to be perfectly honest, but there you have it. Again, read the question, understand the question, answer the question. I know that's a crazy thing, but again, as I said, I've taken these tests 4 times now, and anxiety does very strange things to the human mind, and it can make it very difficult to concentrate. What you really need to do on test day is stay calm, relaxed, focus on what you're reading, okay? Despite all of the butterflies in the stomach and the sweaty hands and the whatever's going through your physical body, focus on reading that question and think, I better do what Jay said about answering this bloody question, because if I don't, I'm going to be in trouble and get 6 again, okay? All right. So we just looked at how to make your position or opinion clear there, and my position was very clear. I focused on 2 main aspects and I just spelled it out. Okay. Third key for task achievement is to use the E2 language introduction, the E2 language paragraph structures, and conclusion structures. Let's just look at the essay structure overall. If you haven't seen the wonderful videos that we have up on YouTube, do check them out. It will take you through this sentence by sentence. When we're writing an introduction, let's focus on this first. You start with a background statement about the topic, okay? You want to write something about job satisfaction, for example, okay? Then you rewrite the question prompt in your own words. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but, job satisfaction is very important. You rewrite that prompt in your own words, right? Then this is the most critical sentence, maybe of your entire essay. This sentence here tells the reader what you're going to tell them. So this essay will discuss, if you're discussing both views. If it's an opinion essay, this essay will argue. If it's a double question essay, this essay will explain why job satisfaction is so important. This essay will explain what constitutes job satisfaction. This answers the question, this one here, right? Let's just skip the paragraphs for a second. We'll go down to the conclusion. Again, I suggest writing a background statement, broad, neutral on job satisfaction. Don't go off topic. Don't start writing about your favorite job or whatever. Just it's about job satisfaction. And then this essay discussed or argued or explained. Okay, it answered the first question and it answered the second question. And maybe you put your opinion in here. Now, what do you do with the opinion? Okay, some questions specifically ask you for your opinion and some don't. For example, there's a question type that says discuss both views. And there's a question type that says discuss both views and tell me which one you think is best. So this one is devoid of an opinion and this one specifically asks you for your opinion. What do you do? Well, I've spoken to an IELTS examiner and I said, IELTS examiner, what happens if somebody puts their opinion and it hasn't asked for their opinion? And he said, it's not a big deal. You're allowed to do that. It's fine. So you'll see in some of the videos I've done where I've said explicitly, don't give your opinion because I haven't asked for it. And then others I've said, no, it's all right. It is actually fine. But it's not the emphasis. It's not the position. It's not the purpose of your essay. If it just says discuss both views and maybe pop your opinion in the conclusion. If it says discuss both views and give your opinion, then discuss both views and in those paragraphs also give your opinion in some way by saying, while some people blah, 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 personally I think this and thread your opinion throughout the whole thing. Whereas if it doesn't, you can just pop your opinion in the conclusion at the end. That's cool. All right, so that's the conclusion. If you're unclear, there's heaps of videos on YouTube. Let's just quickly recap the paragraph structures because this relates to task achievement, because one of the things they ask you to do is to give relevant and extended answers about the topic, right? Relevant and extended. Don't go off track. And by extended, they mean they want reasons, they want explanations, they want some evidence like an example, okay? Let me show you how to do that in the paragraph structures. So if you're familiar with the E2 language structures, there are 2 paragraphs that you might need on test day. And you do need to learn both of these because some questions require the double idea paragraph and some questions require the single idea paragraph. Let's focus on the single idea paragraph first. So that's where you have your opening sentence where you outline the main idea. For example, let's do the smoking is bad. I'll give you a very simple one. It just says, smoking cigarettes is a terrible idea. What's your reason? Well, it affects your physical body. What's your evidence? Well, many people contract lung cancer as a result of smoking. So what's your point again? Well, smoking is a terrible idea. That's a single idea paragraph. I'm just talking about why smoking is a terrible idea. Okay, that's the main single idea. And I extrapolate, I build upon that main idea by giving a reason, explaining it, and then giving some evidence, like an example, right? That's pretty simple. You need to practice these paragraph structures, by the way, because it's one thing to sit here and watch this video lesson and think, oh, yep, cool, got it, test tomorrow, easy. Write one out. It will help you to forge it into your brain. Now, there's a second type of paragraph called the double idea paragraph, because what do you do if the question says, discuss the advantages? Or what do you do if the question says, what factors? Okay? Or what do you do if the question says, what are the problems associated? You need 2 ideas in the one paragraph. So for example, your opening sentence will say that there are 2 main reasons why smoking is a terrible idea. Well, what's your first idea or explanation? Well, smoking is terribly bad for your physical health. What's your evidence? Well, it gives you lung cancer. What's your second idea? What's the second reason that it's terrible? Well, it makes your teeth yellow. What's your evidence? Well, the dentists have many patients with yellow teeth. What's your closing? Well, smoking is a terrible idea because it's bad for your physical health and makes your teeth yellow. Just try and do that. You can go back and pause this video and think of something like, think about why smoking is good and try and just say to yourself, do that. Because that's also what you want to do on test day. And a big part of getting a high score in task achievement, what we're talking about, basically answering the question prompt, is thinking of what you're going to write before you write it. One of the big problems people make, or have rather, is they just start writing their essay without really thinking about what they're going to write or what paragraph they're going to use. This can be a split-second decision you make. You look at that question prompt, you give yourself a minute, you think, okay, that's going to need a double idea paragraph because it's asking about factors. And that second question there's just ask, okay, that's a single idea paragraph, so I'm going to do a double and a single. Okay, fine. What are the 2 ideas for my double? What factors of job satisfaction? Well, a big wage, for example. Okay, that's job satisfaction and meaningfulness. Okay, I've got my 2 and whatever. And then you can start to write. You need to do a thought experiment before you start to write. Writing without thinking will lead you to a 6. Okay, we're nearly there. We've just looked at how to use the E2 language introduction, paragraph, and conclusion structures. The final key for task achievement is that you need to write more than 200. Oh, that's a spelling error from my behalf. More than 250 words. Apparently 23% of candidates, that's 2 out of 10, that's 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5 candidates lose marks because they don't write 250 words or more, okay? So the difference is, and what we're going to learn when we get to the grammar section in, let's just say, well, a couple of weeks it'll take me to get there, but pay attention, you can watch this one on YouTube. I'm going to show you how to extend your sentences because this is another absolute key, and this is a reason why I got stuck on 7.5. I like short sentences. I write in short sentences. I speak in short sentences. But in the IELTS, you need to write long sentences. So we're going to talk about that in grammar. and that will contribute to your word count increase. But have a look here. If you write an introduction of 40 words and your 2 paragraphs of 70 and a conclusion of 40, you'll hit 220 words and you will lose, I don't know exactly, but let's just say it's significant. Maybe an entire band score, maybe more. If you extend the length of your sentences and you write some complex sentences, which I'll show you how to do if you come along to the next lesson, and you extend it out to 50, 80, 80, and 50, well, you've hit above 250, and that's all you need to do to maximize your score there. You just need to write more than 250 words. This may mean counting your words on test day, which is time-consuming, but pretty important, okay? The other thing that this reminds me of is practicing writing an essay or a series of essays, if not heaps of essays before test day, and having some feedback from e2language.com or getting your essays from e2language.com, but paying attention to word count and seeing what that looks like on the page in front of you. Last thing for word count is a lot of people write below the word count because on test day you get 1 sheet of paper, right? And you fill it up one side and you fill up the second side and you think, okay, I've completed that. That must mean that I've written over 250 words. Alas, this happened to me in my first IELTS. This is why I got a 7.5 the first time around. I wrote about 220 words because my handwriting is big and messy and I needed to put up my hand and ask for another sheet of paper. So just be mindful and don't be shy. Put your hand up and ask for a second sheet of paper if you are under the word count and you need to write an additional paragraph, for example. Cool bananas. Next week, what are we going to do next week? Well, we're going to look at top tips for this criterion, which is coherence and cohesion. This is all about structure. It's all about internal structures of paragraphs. So not just the basic outline of your essay and how the paragraph sentences fit together, but how do you connect those sentences together beautifully so it flows from one to the next? So there are top tips that I want to show you next week, so be sure to tune in then. And yes, the week after, vocabulary, the week after that, grammar. Please share these videos with your friends if they're taking the IELTS, because these are the kind of things that everybody needs to know. And these are the reasons why people get stuck at 6.5 and 7, okay? What else have I got for you? That's all. Go and check out the website. You can sign up for free. You can check out all of our lessons, methods lessons, overview lessons, heaps of practice material, live classes every Monday to Friday, feedback on your writing and speaking, one-on-one tutorials, lots and lots of stuff for you to do there. I'll stick around for a few minutes to answer any questions you may have.